And one of the things they say is that we must put a real effort in popularizing the law. Clearly they're not doing it, and they have not much intention of doing it, but I would also say that the Tibetan protests in the last 2 or 3 years have been very largely because Tibetans are starting to understand their rights. Tibetans are getting good education. Jigmila here is a good example of somebody who's come straight out of Tibet to spend a little bit of time in the West and intends going straight back with a good education. And so, yes, China does have laws. The grassland law is one law that's worth studying. The grassland law was amended only a few years ago, and it is largely a law that restricts the nomads rather than articulating the rights of nomads. But however, there certainly are rights, and there's the reforestation law, and there's as well as the constitution. So I do think that that's a fruitful approach to both understand China's stated policies. And by the way, while we're talking about stated policies and the 12th five-year plan, they do say in the 12th five-year plan that the process, and this is the 12th five-year plan for both Tibet Autonomous Region and Qinghai, so it covers most of the Tibetan areas. I've been looking at both. They both say that the target date for completing the comfortable housing / resettlement program is 2013. So I think Gerekla is right that the situation is happening pretty fast. Whether they actually can succeed in doing this that quickly, I frankly doubt, because it's been fairly slow in implementation on the ground, slower than their public announcements would suggest. It's been a much messier process, and on the ground Tibetans have often had the capacity to say, well, yes, you did say that we needed to move, but actually we sold that house and we decided to go back to our land. And in some cases that's possible, in other cases not, and they're clearly clamping down. And by the way, the Chinese government has announced very clearly that they are also clamping down on the environment movement. The environment movement right across China. Past victories of the environment movement, such as stopping some major hydro dams on some of the major Asian rivers that start in Tibet but flow through Chinese provinces before they reach other countries like Burma or Laos or Thailand or Cambodia or whatever. They're now saying very firmly that in order to show to the world that we're not the bad guys in terms of climate, we are going to have a massive push of hydropower construction, and we are signalling in advance that the environment movement is not going to be allowed to get in the way this time. So maybe in that sense we might find that people in the climate movement and the environment movement are suddenly a little bit more sympathetic, because they're starting to realize that the environment movement is getting hammered in the same way that the Tibetans are getting hammered. So that's maybe another factor.